What is up, my beautiful people? My name is G-Vans and welcome back to my channel, where I always have to do the dirty deed of deciding whether an album is worth it or a waste of time. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about this new EP by Vic Mensa entitled The V-Tape. Or I guess just V-Tape, without the. I'm really fucking stupid. This is the official new EP by Vic Mensa. Comes to us about, I want to say, 2 years since his last solo project entitled Hooligans came out back in 2018, I believe. And that was a much more of a hype sort of like, let's start a fucking riot sort of album. It was something very unexpected from Vic Mensa, in my opinion, considering that the last project he dropped before that album was, this like really like, soulful, fucking like rap vibe that, it's really hard to, find, nowadays in hip hop, especially with the new school rappers. But, I still really enjoy that album. I want to say that for the most part, the past few projects that Vic Mensa has dropped have not been like, have not been a disappointing yet whatsoever. I gotta say that Vic Mensa has definitely been on a fucking roll these past few years, like, during his rise to fame, as a new school artist. Not only did he drop a really impressive, debut studio album entitled The Autobiography, came out back in 2017, which, if you haven't heard that one, I highly recommend that you go give it a listen. It is one of the fucking rap projects that you just have to fucking hear. It was super impressive. It was one of my favorite albums that ever came out back in 2017. It was that soulful shit. It was something very fucking different. Vic Mensa has a lot of obvious potential, and he had definitely became one of the best Chicago artists to ever become a rapper, in my opinion. At the time when that album came out, not only did he drop that really impressive first debut studio album, but he's also been impressing a lot of hip-hop fans with his really like great public ciphers and freestyles, and the whole business side that he has been doing. But he also has been experimenting with rock music recently. He made a band last year called 93 Punks, and even created a fucking album with them. His first official like rock music. He has just been really experimenting with a lot of great like fucking music and shit. And he has just been like really expanding himself, not only with hip-hop but with just the business and the culture and everything. He has definitely become a very unique Chicago artist that I think a lot of people have mad respect for, including myself. Unfortunately, not all of the attention that Vic Mensa has gotten has been super positive, considering the fact that he has been developing a lot of beefs lately, specifically with 6ix9ine. But let's be honest, who the fuck doesn't have beef with fucking 6ix9ine these days? But yeah, he has been developing a lot of beefs, and considering that he did did a really like kind of offensive diss to XXX Tentacion, back in 2018 when he did that cipher for the BET Awards. That made him Public Enemy #1. I was okay with it only because he did apologize. He was just he was just like saying his opinion, as we all do in hip-hop these days. But I do appreciate that he apologized, because he did not think that his mom was gonna be there. He did not mean to hurt ex's mom whatsoever when that cipher came out. So I still do give him a respect for that. And also considering that he unfortunately did get arrested earlier this year in January. I still don't know for what. I think he was in possession of drugs or something. But he has not given himself a sort of like a positive reputation. And he kind of became a little bit of Public Enemy #1 because of the fact that he just like, for a lot of people, he just seems like this this like really like hateful person in hip-hop who is just looking for trouble. I personally don't think he's like that, but because of the past like few like negative shit that has been happening in his music career, unfortunately is the reason why a lot of people would like see him as just this like really like negative rapper. So it's obvious that Vic Mensa has been fairly silent this year, not only with his music but just with his social media in general. He hasn't really been posting much. I feel that he's just been taking this time away for himself to just sort of like rethink and just like to sort of like rediscover himself, to like try and figure out what is next, what he's gonna do to like keep moving forward and not go back down. And with all the crazy shit going on in this world, with all the police brutality, all the like all the Black Lives Matter movement, just all the crazy like shit that 2020 has been giving us. Vic Mensa has finally decided to break his silence and to pretty much speak about what's been going on in his life, and then to sort of like add his 2 cents on what's going on in the world right now. The past few projects that Vic Mensa has been doing has been these like really like weird and different sort of like hype shit albums. So it was a really nice change of scenery for me to see Vic Mensa go back to his to his roots, to his to this like really like great beautiful soulful rap album that I personally like fell in love with, and the reason why I became a Vic Mensa fan when he was first starting out. So, being the very great outspoken person that he is, Vic Mensa is on a road for rebirth and for some rediscovery as he comes back and does what he does best, and that's pretty much make some really great and catchy and memorable music that you can like really get lost into. Vic Mensa's lyrical rage is back at it again as he pretty much tells everybody what's been going on in his life, the sort of like self-meditating that he's been doing, and he pretty much makes music for the people, for his fans, comes back with a much more humble attitude as he makes music for the people that have really been struggling with all the unfortunate shit that's been going on this year. I also really love that Vic Mensa has not only been an advocate in real life, as he participates in the protests of everything that's been going on with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, but he even brings a lot of that in this album as he becomes a voice to those who don't have one, and just becomes an advocate to those who can't speak up for themselves, and to those that are in the shadows and aren't cared for enough in this world. I also really love that Vic Mensa doesn't let that sort of like public enemy #1 reputation determine who he is or stop him from making a bunch of good music, as he pretty much embraces that reputation that he has, as he takes shots at all the critics that have been calling him just this hateful person, just somebody who just likes to diss people for no reason, that likes to start trouble, and pretty much declares war on the whole fucking industry and just on everybody who has ever doubted him, because he is still here making some pretty dope fucking music. The guest that's on here is an absolute highlight of why I personally enjoyed this album a lot. Vic Mensa teams up with this really talented singer known as Sna Gallagher. I'm pretty sure I'm saying her name right. She shows up on this album on a track entitled X Games, and that one is this sort of like classic R&B love vibe. I really love how Vic Mensa became a lot more vulnerable in this album, as he pretty much as he pretty much talks about love and talks about how every human does deserve it, and how how he has fucked up a lot of his relationships, but how he is still willing to work on himself, and that he understands that he has been the problem a lot in like these past relationships that he had, and it's just really great to see him own up to that, because not that many men out here like to own up that it was like their fault. St. John also shows up on this album on a track entitled Too Honest, and that one is this really like sad and emotional fucking album. Vic Mensa and St. John just talk about how how they really like that they're like these like really like brutally honest people, but they also realize just how toxic that sort of like trait can be, being this like brutally honest person. People may not like your honesty. It's sort of embracing that you obviously always have to stay true to yourself, because no matter what, you have to only prove yourself wrong, but to also try not to be sort of like a dickhead or an asshole along the way. That's how I feel that this song is about. I really love St. John's vocals. I actually didn't think he was gonna sound good next to Vic Mensa, because they both are like these like very like drastic and dramatically different artists, but they honestly did, and I just really enjoyed hearing St. John again on a song. He is super underrated, super underestimated, super underappreciated in my opinion as well, and St. John just like really fucking proved himself in this track. And finally, BJ the Chicago Kid shows up on this album on a track entitled Rebirth. It's the final track of the album, and that one is honestly, both BJ and Vic Mensa like trying to seek redemption. They realize and acknowledge that they have done some pretty shitty things in the past, and they know that it wasn't good, but that was the past. And now is the time for them to move on and to sort of like seek redemption, and to just sort of prove that they have been they've been trying to like better themselves, not only for themselves, but for their fans and for their family and shit. And I just really appreciate that track. BJ has actually showed up on a lot of Vic Mensa's albums. Even though I do think that Ty Dolla $ign is a lot more better than BJ the Chicago Kid, I do think that he sounds so fucking great whenever he does a song with Vic Mensa. It's always really soulful. It's always like really great and like fucking meaningful and energetic. They always just bring all this like positive and chill vibes, and honestly, it's something that I, really, really appreciate. So with all that being said, is this album worth it or a waste of time? In my opinion, I would say it's worth it, but I do see why a lot of people would think that this album is like not as good as the past Vic Mensa albums. In my opinion, I actually enjoyed this album a lot more than the Hooligans album. I actually found myself enjoying every track on this album, and I can't really remember if I enjoyed every track on the Hooligans album. So I actually do think it's worth it. This album is just this like great, soulful vibe. It's only 7 tracks, but it's honestly really worth it. Like I said, Vic Mensa has not disappointed me yet, and this album is just really good. But to those who just don't like Vic Mensa because of the sort of like bad reputation that he has, I just want to say that he does sort of like redeem himself in this album. I do think he like like does a lot more like of like a positive vibe to his music this time. And even if you don't like want to hear it because of that, all I gotta say is that it's only 7 tracks long. It's only about 20 minutes long. What really do you got to lose to just hear this 7-track album? So I do really recommend this one to each and every one of you. I think it's something that you will all enjoy, especially if you're a big fan of this sort of like lyrical rap and soulful rap music. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed my review, don't forget to like, subscribe, click that bell down below, all that good stuff, so you don't miss a single one of my uploads whatsoever. And don't forget to stay happy.
Got a lot of dirt up on my name. I might have had a rap beef with the whole game. I'm spraying everything, I don't really need to aim. I really be in traffic while I'm always switching lanes.